Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to give you a quick little walkthrough over the key areas of the landscapes topic, which you are going to have to revise in preparation for the end of topic test. And I'm going to give you a little kind of pointer to the resources you need to use and look at in order to prepare yourself. Okay, so the first thing I would do is break down your revision notes or your revision cards, checklists, using these here. Okay, using these bullet points. Each of these is a key theme that you're going to need to revise. So if we have a look at the first two, these are both explain, and they're involving you explaining how the different features of the landscape are formed. So we've got the glacial ones, the Corrie, the Arete, the Pyramidal Peak, the U-shaped valley, and we've got the coastal ones, Headland Bay, Cliff, Arch, Stack, and Stump, and the Sand Spit. So 4 for each. These are always 4-mark questions. And you can often use a diagram entirely if you so wish to answer your question. You don't actually need to write an answer, or you might choose just to write your answer and not use the diagram. And in your class notes, when you're taught this, you'll have both options available to you as an approach. Okay. One of the things to remember is that with these, you're going to want to name the processes that are involved. So, for example, abrasion is actually a process involved in both the sea and the glacial landscape features. You've got plucking in the glacial landscape features. The glacial landscape features involve you telling me about how glaciers are formed in the first place. The sand spit involves the process of longshore drift. So you need to be pretty aware of these different features and be able to write a 4-mark answer to any of them. And you might, certainly in this, because it's an end of topic, you might get asked for a feature from each of the different landscapes. So the next question is asking you to use a photo or diagram to describe a feature. So for example, if you were asked to describe a corrie, how would you actually describe it? Not explain it, but what does it look like? Where is it in the landscape? Describe its shape, give its key characteristics. Okay. Um, Also, what you have to do with all these features is identify them using an Ordnance Survey map. So you need to look at your Ordnance Survey map skills you've developed and spot any of these features, whether it's a glacial landscape or a coastal. You'll normally get asked, the map will either be a glacial map or a coastal map. So all your features will come from the same landscape. Okay. And finally, there is always some other associated map skills with the landscapes topic. For this end of topic, we want you to focus in on the cross-section skill and be able to identify features on a cross-section by matching them up with the Ordnance Survey map. And you'll be shown how to do that in class. Okay, the last couple of skills are always worth quite a lot of marks, so pay attention to these. Don't just gloss over them. The land uses, why are certain land uses suited to either glaciated or coastal landscapes? So this is where you have to explain the key features of the landscape and why it suits a specific land use. So for example, if you were picking hydroelectric power in a glaciated landscape, you would have to tell me why a glaciated landscape is suited. And these can be worth, up to 4 marks. So you have to be able to explain in as much detail as possible the different features of a landscape that might suit that land use. And there's a whole range of land uses like renewable energies, farming, forestry, industry. You get to choose from a normally, and tourism, I should say, from a range of options. Okay. Now, the last question, it does actually say in a glaciated landscape I have studied. So you must be able to name the landscape you studied for the glaciated, and that is obviously Loch Lomond. What you've then got to do is explain in detail the different conflicts that exist between different land uses. So what you need to do for this is identify a specific conflict between two land users, like tourists and farmers, for example, and then explain in as much detail as you can a wide range of conflicts that might exist between those two groups. Okay. Now you might get asked to do it for 2 different pairs. So it might be you might go tourists and are in conflict with farmers, and you might say tourists are in conflict with renewable energy companies. And those are 2 separate types of conflicts. Okay, but key thing is here you need to explain in detail what the conflicts are, and you have to name it in the context of a landscape. So you have to name Loch Lomond. Okay, so how do you prepare for this? Class notes are definitely first place you want to start. You want to think about everything I've said and make sure you can find your notes. Now, don't just read through your notes. Start developing your own revision notes for each of these key ideas. If you go into the main Google Classroom, you can link into the revision website. And when you get into the revision website, you're going to want to access the information in these three tabs, as well as, it's just taking a bit of time to load up. There is the map skills. Here we are, tab. Okay. And when you jump into any of these tabs, so if I jump into the landscapes one, it's going to give you a few additional resources to use to prepare. So you have got this. If you click on this, this is a kind of a revision checklist, although I have given you a more specific tailored revision checklist for the end of topic test. You've got some practice questions and answers that you can look at. And you've also got some video tutorials. And these are quite useful because it may be a while ago since you learned this information, and these will be a walkthrough where I'm discussing, describing, and explaining the different features. So in this case, I'm covering the 4 erosional features. And you'll find similar resources in the different tabs for the 4 different sections of the website that relates to this topic. Key thing with good revision, though, is to prepare your own notes, maybe your own flashcards if that's what you do to revise. Base that on either the material here on the revision website or your main class notes. And this is a top tip, on the homepage of the revision website, you've got access to lots of past papers. So I'm just going to show you that finally. So if we go to the end of this, down to the bottom of the front page of the revision website, you'll find a walkthrough of the 2017 practice paper. And if you watch it, you will see that not only are you taught how to do an exam paper, but you are more specifically, I will cover some landscape questions in there and talk about how you'd answer them. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just look through each one of these past papers. So you've got 6 past papers going back to 2014. Have a look at the landscape questions in each of these past papers. They're always the first batch of questions that appear at the very beginning. So there'll be questions 1, 2, 3, and sometimes 4 of the past paper. So good luck. Give yourself plenty of preparation, and of course, if you prepare well, you will do well in this assessment.